Hello and welcome to our new show, Into the Arena. I'm Matt and joined as always by Jonathan.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is pretty awesome. I am thrilled about this concept. So basically, we are exclusively focusing on the arena portion of Hearthstone because there's a lot of strategic depth to the choices that you make when you're drafting an arena deck, and a lot of common mistakes. So, for our betterment, for the betterment of our viewers, we thought, let's just dive deep on that one particular aspect. Also, I don't know about you, Matt, but I kind of like it because the deck that you're drafting is new every time, and you don't need the best cards in the game. Everyone's kind of got a level playing field in that they're randomly picking between, 30 cards.
Yeah, I love that too. I mean, Hearthstone is a collectible card game, and I'll just fire up the collection for a second here so you can see there are hundreds of cards in this game. It may feel familiar if you've played collectible card games like Magic the Gathering before, but there's actually a lot of differences that we'll be discussing as we go through the show here. One of the main differences is that they've just simplified gameplay quite dramatically. All the actions take place on your turn, and then it's the next player's turn. There's no concept of, interrupts or... The rules are just very simple. It's very simple, deceptively simple, and there's actually quite a lot of really deep strategy.
Yeah,
as well.
Just because the matches play out fast, it's rare to have a match go to 10 minutes. Usually they're about 3 to 5 minutes. Doesn't mean there's a lot of decision-making that goes into drafting your deck and playing it effectively.
Yeah, so there's two main modes here in Hearthstone. There's the play mode where you can use all the cards that you've opened in your packs and build your own killer deck with no restrictions and take it on against other people. But what we're checking out here is the arena. And in the arena...
And I think one thing to mention is if you've played the arena a lot, the difference between a bad and a good deck is not obvious. Like, I've played decks where I'm like, I am nailing this, and I lost, 3 in a row. And then I played decks that are like, this isn't that good, everything's high mana casting cost, and I did great. So there is a reason behind that, and we hope to sort of demystify that. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your intro.
No. I mean, the arena is a very simple gameplay mode. It costs gold to enter, or US dollars, but you earn the gold by playing the game. Just playing the game, you'll get some. And then you wager this gold, and you're guaranteed to get at least one card pack, which is worth 100 gold. Even if you do, piss poor throughout your arena run. But if you do great, you could actually get a big return on this 150 gold. You can get even more than that out of it.
So in Magic, they call this going infinite, which is you're not giving any more money to Wizards of the Coast because you just keep winning prize packs. So we want you guys, as the listeners, to go infinite. That you're earning more net gold than you're spending and you never have to pay. Obviously, that's not realistic for most people unless you're very, very good at the game. In that case, we're just kind of slowing down your bleed of dollars to Blizzard.
Yeah, so let's dive on in here. And the way the arena format works is we're gonna get 3 equally, well, maybe not equally good, but equal rarity things, and we'll have to choose one, and the other 2 will be gone forever. And the very first decision that you have to make when you enter the arena is which class do you want. There's 9 classes. That's a major difference from Magic, which doesn't have this concept of a hero. Not really, not at the core of the game like it is here.
There are formats that emulate this, strangely enough, but not popular formats.
And there's 9 heroes available, and we've just been presented with 3 of them. So we've got Paladin, Warlock, and Warrior. And what we're going to do on the show here is just talk through anytime we've got a choice between 3, what the strengths and weaknesses are, and then, sort of draft a deck here together over the course of the next half hour.
So I'll jump right in. I'll say Paladin is the most played, sample size of 1. You can chime in, but it is the most played hero. It seems like, a good solid 40+% of my opponents are Paladins, if not more. And that could be because the deck has some very tough-to-beat combos that are easy to put together. There are ways of countering it, but basically the Paladin deck wants to get out a bunch of pretty low-power toughness minions, and that's one kind of sub-strategy, kind of swarm the board. And the other strategy is Divine Shield. Just shield your dudes, ram them into the enemy, and then the counterattacks that they can make are totally unprofitable for them. They're going to lose at least 2 guys in the exchange. So both of those strategies tend to work well together. And then tertiarily, there's an equipment sub-theme. The Paladin has some very strong equipment that is easy to. You just basically taking a step towards back towards meta strategy. Combos don't always come together for you, so sometimes you just want a card that is good by itself, and the Paladin equipment is just that. Like, it doesn't require anything else to be good, it just works. So the deck's easy to play, there's a lot of avenues to win. And why don't you talk about the other two, Matt?
Well, yeah, and then just, with the Paladin, I love the concept of Divine Shield. It's a really neat ability. It makes it so that the first time a unit gets attacked, or a card gets attacked, the shield just goes away, and the card doesn't actually take any damage, but it still gets to deal all of its damage. And thematically, it's really cool. One of the things that we'll be talking about throughout the show is that Jonathan loves these card games for their mechanics and for, how could you be the best card player.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that the Paladin deck is great because thematically it all ties in, in the World of Warcraft mythos of a paladin is someone who can heal but who is also strong. The weapons cards come into it, the divine shield. It all just makes a lot of sense, and their ability is to summon a follower, a 1/1 follower. And I don't know, I just think this card, this class, it's really fun to play with because it sort of tells a story as you play the deck. All the cards in it are really great.
Yeah, it's funny. We're going to be bouncing off each other. It's so true. All of that is true, and the lore is cool, and to me, I'm just but whatever. Is it good? And
so
it can't win, for sure.
This next card is a Warlock, and my main deck is a Warlock deck, but I don't actually use the Warlock abilities at all. That's because I use a really cheap deck in my main deck, which is the Murloc deck. There's a couple of cards that are Murlocs, and with that deck, it's all really, really cheap Murlocs that you want to get out there, and you need a lot of card draw. And the Warlock's special ability is deal 2 damage to himself and draw a card. So it's great for that. That's the hero that you would choose if you were building a Murloc deck. But building a Murloc deck, or really any themed deck in draft format, is a horrible idea because you just can't be sure. Maybe you draft 1 or 2 great Murloc cards early on, but then you don't get those other Murloc cards that you need for the deck to come together.
And you're screwed.
And you're just completely screwed. So we won't be using the Warlock for that reason here. What are some other reasons why you might use a Warlock?
So if you're playing a Warlock, I would say the Warlock is one of the highest risk-reward in one of the most difficult decks or characters to play properly, because he requires insane levels of aggression. Your goal is to knock the opponent out of the game as fast as possible, and all of his cards kind of work to that effect. They're injurious to the Warlock when you play them, which feels bad to a lot of players. They're not willing to make that sacrifice, but then they're worse for your opponent. So you are hurting yourself, and you are hurting your opponent more. And you basically, if you haven't won by turn 5, you're going to lose the game horribly as your opponent plays higher mana cost stuff. So yeah, it takes kind of a steely resolve to play the Warlock properly, because you're going to want to hang back. You're going to think, he's going to kill me if I don't defend, and you can never do it. So if you're playing Warlock, I think it's not a good first choice if you're new to the game, and it's still pretty risky even if you're a pro.
And I think this last card here is in many ways the opposite of the Warlock. The Warlock deals 2 damage to himself to draw a card, and Garrosh, the warrior here, his special ability is to gain 2 armor. Armor is essentially just health. I mean, it sits on top of your hit points, and you have to burn through the armor before you could take damage. So basically, this Warlock every turn is dealing 2 damage to himself. If he was faced off against this warrior would be adding 2 health to himself each turn.
And the nice thing is the armor stacks. I think theoretically very high. I don't know if there is a max, but it's not it doesn't run into the same perils as healing yourself, where you can't heal past 30. You can stack armor for days, basically. And the warrior has a sub-theme of he wants minions with high health, because damaged minions, they've bloodied themselves in battle, do very good things for the warrior deck. So basically, you want your minions to be attacking their minions and taking damage, because it's very good for you if that happens, which seems awesome and is thematically right, but it's actually kind of a hard situation to create on the board, because your minions will often just die outright in combat, but it's hard to get a bunch of minions stuck around who are slightly damaged but not dead. So I haven't had a ton of success with the warrior deck. I mean, moderate success, but he's not my favorite for sure.
I think we're in a little bit of a Goldilocks situation here because we've got the warrior deck that's too slow and the warlock deck that's too fast, and I think this paladin deck here is going to be just right. What do you say?
Yeah, I hate to pick the standard choice, but there's a reason people play paladin, and it's because it's damn good.
I will fight with honor.
I mean, he does fight with honor, so that's a good thing.
Let's do it.
All right, so now we're going to be picking 30 cards. Down here we can see our mana curve. That's the number of zero cast, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, the cost of these cards. And basically we've got 3 choices. You'll see this blue crystal means these are rare cards, which is probably means they're, you know, above average. And we got 3 rares, and we just need to pick one.
Let's make a quick note about mana cost. Sometimes the best choice and the best choice for your deck are different, and here's what I mean by that. You gotta look back at the picks you've already taken. If you have a bunch of stuff that's high casting cost, even if it's really awesome and powerful, you might want to take some suboptimal picks in the low casting cost range, just so that you have stuff to do in the beginning turns of the game, because this is a very tempo-based game. That said, for pick 1, we should just be picking the strongest stuff. So let's really quickly talk about this decision.
Okay, first one, Defender of Argus. I use this one in my deck all the time. It gives your adjacent minions +1/+1 and taunt. It simultaneously buffs them and makes it so that you're harder to attack. It was recently nerfed. It used to be a 3 attack. Now it's a 2 attack, but it's still, you know, very strong attack and defense. And the perk that it gives you, I don't know. I love that card.
Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious winner. We should just really quickly talk about the next one. So this one, I've seen Paladin decks basically use this for the Alpha Strike. So you're actually using this quite offensively because your minion that you cast this on is not going to live past, you know, a couple of 1 turn, basically, unless you have defense. So this is meant to get in that extra surprise bit of damage and just steal up the game. 5 mana is a lot, and you're wasting an entire card on it, so it's not as good as it looks, even though it seems great, and doubling seems powerful. And then last, Light Warden. Yeah, you don't have a lot of ways of healing.
We have some, more than 0, but...
More than 0, for sure. And keep in mind, character does mean yourself, so it does have some synergy with Lightbringer that heals yourself. But it is tough relatively to heal, and he is not. Light Warden is not good unless you can get at least 1 heal off. If you can heal a lot, he's amazing, or she's amazing. But
well,
not,
Defender
yeah, you should pick the card that just works by itself, I feel, and the Defender is that.
So Murloc, I think in general we should just rule out all Murlocs. Is there any exception to that rule?
This guy can be thought of kind of as a fireball, you know, unless the guy has taunt. This Murloc is the most playable of the Murlocs because charge is actually surprisingly good. Sometimes you need the guy on the board right now. And it's actually kind of a defensive ability. It's like you're taking out their dude before it can attack you, so that's not too bad. And the Panther is actually pretty good. 4/2, 2 basically means it's always going to trade down. You know, you only need 2 attack to kill it. But the stealth means you get to choose who it's going to attack the first time. So you're basically always going to get the target you want. And I'll let you talk about Argent Protector because to me that's like, you know, I take that guy as often as I see him. He is the linchpin of the Paladin deck.
Exactly. He gives a friendly minion Divine Shield, and a Paladin is all about putting Divine Shield on your minions, especially this guy. You get to choose which friendly minion gets it. You could have a very strong minion out on the board and then give it Divine Shield, protect it from being killed. I don't know.
And
it's
he's
incredible.
cheap. Here's the one...
Cheap.
Yeah, I mean, 2 for 2/2 isn't bad. Here's the one downside. You do need something on the board to give Divine Shield to. And of course, you can always give Divine Shield to your 1/1, although that's underwhelming. He can't give it to himself. So you need a board presence. So any smart player who's getting destroyed by Divine Shield knows that it's best to keep the board clear if the guy is playing a lot of Argent Protector. So you have to consider that as well. You know, you need a board presence. That said, he just does some just disgusting things. So
yep. Here's one of those Paladin weapons you were talking about. It's just, you know, straight up good. 1 cost, 1 damage for 4 turns.
Yeah, it's okay.
Works.
1 damage. Keep in mind, you are taking damage when you attack something. It is quite useful for destroying opposite Paladin minions. for taking off Divine Shields from something.
I wouldn't draft this weapon personally.
I would not take it. It's too low power to be useful, even though it's 1 mana.
And the fact that it lasts for 4 turns is not actually that great, because if you have a lot of weapons in your deck, I would prefer to have the ones that deal high damage and don't last for very long. Just deal all the damage and move on.
So I would pick this if the guy was playing a lot of 1 toughness, but you can't predict whether they are or not. And generally speaking, there's not a ton of stuff that's 1 toughness if your opponent is good that they're going to be playing, because 1 toughness is, it dies to everything, obviously. So let's talk about these other 2.
Frost Elemental freezes a character. That's, pretty good when you play it. It's 6 mana for a 5/5, and you get to prevent someone from attacking you.
Yes, that is awesome. Basically, it's a huge tempo swing. 6 for a 5/5 is not perfect stats. You'd want better stats. But locking down their beater for a turn is really not so shabby. So he's expensive. You don't want too many things at the 6 or 7 plus range, but he's a pretty solid choice. And then you want to talk about the Ogre Magi?
It's a 4/4/4, so this is what a popular Magic podcast refers to as the vanilla test.
That's right.
If it costs 4 mana, it should have a baseline 4 attack and 4 health. And
Correct.
So this is just a baseline card. So it's good. Good basic card, and on top of that, it gets extra spell damage. I'm not sure that we're going to be casting a lot of spells in this deck. You certainly could, but
I lean towards the Frost Elemental because we're early, and we get to pick what fills at the top end of our curve. But I am really curious about what you think.
Yeah, I think the Frost Elemental gets it as well. This spell damage, this is making a commitment to me early in the draft that we're going to put a lot of spell cards in, and I don't think we've seen enough
Paladins do not
yet.
have amazing spells for sure. That's not a surprise there if you play WoW.
Yep. So let's jump in.
Yep.
Another
Okay.
charging Murloc.
He's not bad. The Wind Fury Dragonhawk is a total trap. Wind Fury is an amazing ability on stuff with high power because you get to attack twice. The Shaman deck abuses that, right? But this guy comes down, is totally vulnerable for a turn before he can attack, and he has 1 toughness, so you could never attack something and not die.
So you wouldn't
just
even
that
get to
card's
use
garbage.
the second Wind Fury.
Yeah. Silver Moon Guardian is just an all-around solid card. 4 for 3/3 ain't bad. Is not great, rather, but the Divine Shield means you at least get 2 uses, and 3/3 is going to kill something, maybe 2 things. It's worth really quickly mentioning card advantage. Obviously, you win by getting your opponent from 30 to 0, but you are more likely to win if you are trading 1 of your cards for 2 of their cards because they'll run out. So this guy often 2-for-1s in the mid game. So we're a little, we want to make sure we're not too heavy in the middle, but I definitely think it's an even toss-up between this guy and the Bluegill Warrior, and I kind of favor the slower Divine Shield option for the Paladin.
Yeah, plus it's we're clearly starting to build a Divine Shield deck, so let's go.
Which is a great deck.
Alright, another Light's Justice. This Core Hound, 7 cast, 9 and 5.
He's
That's
a
interesting because it
He's
averages
a
out to 7.
total trap. Because he comes down and he trades down. There's a lot of stuff that's cheaper than 7 mana that does 5 points of damage. This thing will almost never, in practice, hit your opponent. I've actually never seen a Core Hound successfully get through. The Boulder Fist Ogre, he seems really boring. He has no exceptional stats. But 6 for 6/7 man, 7 points of toughness is tough to deal with, and 6 power is a lot. This guy will get 2, maybe 3 things while he's smashing into an opponent. He's boring, but he's good. So I pick him, and then we got to be cognizant that we're picking a lot of high cast and cost stuff.
Oh, you got to deal the hand you're dealt.
Okay.
Oh, good. We got 2 Battlecry options here. Man, the Cosmos really wants us to put this Bluegill Warrior into our deck.
If we were a Warlock, I'd be slamming those things, but we're not.
So this Ironbeak Owl, Battlecry, Silence of Minions. Silence is a great ability.
It takes away Divine Shield. It takes away any buff.
It takes away all the buffs.
It takes away any curse or debuff. Ironbeak Owl is a solid performer. The problem is, just like Argent Protector, you need a valid target. So he's not a great choice for turn 2. You should actually save the silence for when it counts. And just FYI, the best possible target you could target with an Ironbeak Owl is one of those legendaries with like a really back-breaking battle cry, or sorry, death rattle. Like there's a Paladin legendary that gives you Ashbringer, which is a 5/3 sword that does 15 points of damage by itself. That's amazing. And then there's a Cairn Bloodhoof, who is a 4/5 that summons another 4/5. Ironbeak Owl just totally destroys those cards. And
for 2 mana cost.
For 2 mana.
Amazing.
So he's not exceptional if your opponent is just playing like solid vanilla cards. But if your opponent lucked into legendaries, Ironbeak Owl is a great card.
And this Novice Engineer actually recently nerfed. It used to be, I think, a 2 attack, or maybe it was 2 health.
2 toughness.
2 toughness.
The reason she was nerfed is because she was far too strong against Paladins, because she could take out 2 1/1 minions and draw a card. So that's a net swing of, 3 things, basically. No, I mean, I don't count those minions as cards, maybe half of a card.
Do we care a lot about card draw in this deck that we're building?
Here's an important thing to note. Like, you do want to make sure that you're not running out of gas. Like, you don't want a situation where you're out of cards. But the Novice Engineer is so bad on the board. Like, our ability is 2 mana, summon a 1/1, which we can do, and it's basically like drawing a card, because we didn't have to play a card to get it on the board. So cycling through your deck is not a bad thing. You'll draw into the more powerful stuff, but I think the Ironbeak Owl just beats it by a mile.
Yep, I agree. That silence, it's going to be great. Oh, here we go. We got a strong Wind Fury card, although this charge card is really good too. Well, let's talk about the one we're not going to pick. We've got a Goldshire Footman here.
A trap. I mean, people think Taunt is really good, and they're not wrong. You're going to soak up an attack. But here's the thing that you need to note strategically. Taunt is great with high power, because you're going to destroy the enemy side of the board as they attack into it. Taunt with low power is garbage. This guy takes, like, a hit and he's dead, and he's dealt 1 damage to the thing. Not worth a card. I will say, Wind Fury Harpy, you're big on it. I think it's terrible.
Why? Because the mana cost?
6 for a 4/5 is really rough, and keep in mind, it doesn't attack until the next turn. So, they're going to slam something into it. It's only going to do 4 damage to that thing. So their thing lives, your thing died, and you spent 6 mana. Whereas Reckless Rocketeer seems bad, but is awesome, because since it's
just
charged,
a fireball.
You get to deal 5 damage that turn and kill anything you want.
Just think of it like a spell, even though
it is a spell. Think of it as a spell. Don't think of it as a minion.
Well, let's grab him.
Yep.
Oh, Redemption, our first secret. What do you think about secrets? Are they worth playing? Obviously, the idea here is that your opponent doesn't know what your secret is until the criteria on the card occurs, and then it happens immediately.
So, secrets, they're sort of a trap because you can't control what your opponent's going to do. So, if you have a bunch of minions on the board and play a secret, the smart opponent will kill your weakest minion first, and then you get your weakest minion back. So, there's some nice stuff here, like if it's got a battle cry or something, that's not bad. Actually, I don't know if Redemption triggers battle cry, so I take that back. It doesn't trigger battle cry, because you can't do anything on your opponent's turn. So, yeah, this is really only good if you're like going all in on one big minion that they need to stop. Which is true. Like, if you have a bunch of Venture Co. mercenaries in your deck, Redemption is exactly what you want to see. But we haven't drafted that deck, so yeah, pass.
And that's true for most secrets, I'm gathering. You're not a big fan of secrets in general.
There is a mage sub-theme that makes secrets not bad, but, unlike Magic, where you can play them anytime and get exactly the effect you want, you have no control. So typically, just imagine it. Don't have best case scenario mentality in mind. Have worst case. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, the worst thing with Redemption is I get my 1/1 back and I wasted a card. That's pretty bad.
Yep. Well, we see the Silver Moon Guardian again. Obviously, great baseline card for this deck we're building. And then the last one is this Abusive Sergeant. 1 mana, 2 attack, and it gives another minion plus 2 attack this turn.
So, yeah, you should talk about this guy. I mean, you know how I feel, so you can summarize that too.
Actually, I'm not sure how you feel. I mean, from my perspective, I think this used to be a lot stronger when it was a permanent buff. Now it just gives you +2 damage, so, you know, the 2/1, this guy's not going to stay on the board for very long. But it's only 1 mana cost. Giving someone else +2 is good, but you have to have another card on the board for it to target. I don't know, I'd say below average. What are you saying?
This guy is actually a really good defensive card because you're always going to trade up. So basically, let's say you got the Argent Protector on the board, they've got a 4/4. You play this guy, you trade your Argent Protector into their 4/4, you still have this guy with 2 power onto the board. So, you know, he's not great if you're just throwing that 2 damage at the other opponent's head, but he can break through some stalemates by giving you that needed power boost. Because you get that 2 power, you know, the turn that you are playing this guy on the board, because you're presumably putting it on another minion that you have in play. Obviously, the same restrictions as Argent Protector apply. You need a good target, which isn't always there.
So are you giving him average or above average, below average?
For the Paladin deck, I would slam another Silver Moon, even though we have high casting cost. We can make it up later.
I agree. Secret Keeper. When a secret is played, gain 1/1. That does not seem very good.
No, horrible.
And it's a blue card, too. Wow. Okay, well, we're going to skip over that one. The Young Priestess I actually like quite a lot, especially in fast decks. It gives a random friendly minion +1 health. It's basically like the Warlock card. I forget, the Stealth
The
Imp.
Blood Imp.
Blood Imp, yeah. So it's great that any other deck can have this as well now. What do you think about this card?
So it's going to die really fast unless you have Taunt out. Maybe that's okay. I mean, again, you need other minions, but the +1 health is surprisingly good because, hey, if you had 5 toughness guy and he has a 5 attack guy, and suddenly your 5 toughness guy becomes 6 toughness, well, they can't kill it anymore. It becomes a very unprofitable attack. And this thing, in practice, will just sit around giving your guys +1 if you have a bunch of threats on the board. So that's not to think of it as a great early game play because it just dies to everything. But when you have a threatening board, it's not bad.
How about this last one here? We're building a high-cost deck. This card will draw a card and deal its damage equal to its cost, and we're building a high-cost deck. Could this actually be useful here, or no?
This is a good card when your curve is high. It draws a card, so basically it's replacing itself, and you get to deal damage equal to its cost. So if we draw into the Argent Protector Ironbeak Owl, that's not bad, or that's not great, but if we draw into a Reckless Rocketeer or a Boulder Fist Ogre or Frost Elemental, that's amazing. We have very few sources of direct damage, so I'm inclined to take it. You know, the Paladin wants to stall the board with 1/1s in the early game and then just kind of steamroll over with big guys in the end game. So I don't know, I'm torn between the Holy Wrath and the Young Priestess. Sometimes just getting out a 2/1 early is the right thing. You don't want to be, because keep in mind when you play your 2 or your 1/1 for 2 mana, you can't attack with it till the next turn. So
I like the Young Priestess because we're going to have a bunch of 1/1s on the board.
I think Young Priestess is right.
None of these are slam dunks, by the way.
No, I think Young Priestess is right.
But that happens sometimes when you're drafting. All right, more blues. All
Okay.
minions cost 1 more. That doesn't seem very good.
So that is unsurprisingly better in a spell-heavy deck. It's pretty garbage for us. It can be okay because when you play it, you know, your opponent suddenly has their game plan thrown off. The thing they wanted to play, they can't play anymore. But it's rare that'll happen. Ancient Mage, again, we don't need spell damage at all. And even if we did, his stats are pretty garbo. Twilight Drake, surprisingly good.
I like the Twilight Drake. It's better if you have a lot of card draw.
Right, which we have no card draw, but like 4 for 4 power, you know, we'll take it.
Just 3/3/3 Ironfur Grizzly with Taunt. That's a fairly common card.
So these are all bad. I will just say that I'm not excited to play any of these. Archmage, actually, you know, if we didn't have 6s, he's solid because he can eat a few things, but Darkscale Healer, seems like the best if you're clogging the board. 3 for a 3/3 taunt is really underwhelming.
Let's go with the
I don't
Dark
know.
Sailor.
I don't know. We kind of need a 3-drop. 3 for a 3/3 taunt will help us get to the end game. Fine. Boring. Fine.
So give a minion +3 attack. It's only 1 cost. That's a good spell. And then we've seen this guy before. And then this Dragonling mechanic, it's a 2/4 that summons a 2/1. So that
That
could be
is
useful.
really awesome. You want a lot of minions. I love Boulder Fist Ogres, though. But we already have 3 6s. I don't know. I think the Dragonling mechanic's the right choice.
We also have a lot of 4s. What about
Blessing
Blessing of
of
Might?
Might-
Not that great?
I mean, strictly speaking, is just a not great card, because at least you get a 2/1 when you play that, Argent Commander. I mean, it's permanent, so that's great, but, like, what of your things is going to stick around for a ton of turns? Maybe a Boulder Fist Ogre.
Yep. Well, here we are again. I think the
Iron
choice
Beak,
here is Iron
slam
Beak.
that Iron Beak.
How many? Another Murloc. Bluegill Warrior.
Dude, slam that Iron Beak.
Summon a 1/1 boar. We're not
It's
excited about
okay,
this.
by the way, to cast an Iron Beak when you don't have a great target. With a Paladin, you never have that situation because you always make a 1/1. But it's never a bad thing to hang on to Iron Beaks because your opponent will do something and think they're really clever, and then you just Iron Beak and just totally destroy, whatever.
This is going to be a very annoying deck, I can already tell.
That's what we want.
Blessing of Wisdom. Choose a minion whenever it attacks, draw a card. Now, I didn't realize for the longest time that you could actually play this on your enemy to sort of disincentivize him from, swinging with his big guy.
That is a useful thing. I mean, obviously, if you were drawing 1 card off of Blessing of Wisdom, it is awful. So you want to place it on something that is going to attack multiple times. If you have like a solid defense, Blessing of Wisdom can get really out of hand. But, hey, sometimes you just need to cycle through your deck because you want to get to a better card, and Blessing of Wisdom does that. It's only 1 mana.
I mean, this is an underwhelming choice between these 3, but let's go
Blessing
with
of
it, right?
Wisdom is not as good as people seem to think it is, but, the other 2 suck, so.
Alright, so Oasis Snapjaw, 2 damage, 7 health. Is that a very good... No, you were saying like if
He's
defensive
average.
cards you
He's
want
actually
good
better
attack.
than people think because he will kill a lot of stuff that's low toughness. He's kind of a counter to aggression. I mean, as being a turtle, you would assume that to be the case, right?
Interesting.
I kind of love the Stormpike Commando. I mean, putting 2 damage wherever you want is really useful. So that'd be my personal choice. Frost
And we
Elemental.
already have the 1 Frost Elemental in
I
the deck.
think you don't want more than 1 Frost Elemental if you can help it.
Okay. Sometimes when I'm drafting, I actually think, like, if I like this card enough to draft it once, then I should like it enough to draft it again. But is that not always the case?
That is
Sometimes.
definitely not true. I mean, you want card diversity because you're going to be facing a diversity of situations. And sometimes, you're going to need to, luck into the proper draw. They call it top decking in Magic. And if that card's not in your deck, you just lose. And sometimes you get lucky and you draw it if it is in your deck. So have a diversity of cards. So Raid Leader seems good, but he's not because he dies immediately. So he's good when you play him and you have a ton of 1/1s on the board and you just like go all in and destroy their board because your guys are suddenly +1 attack. Booty Bay Bodyguard is really underwhelming because he'll basically just trade 1 for 1.
Redemption we don't like, so what do we go with?
I guess Raid Leader. I don't know though. They're both pretty bad. I
We'll
only
have
say
a lot
Raid
of minions
Leader.
on the deck.
I only say Raid Leader because we're a Paladin. In any other deck, not at all.
Another Silver Moon Guardian. It's a very solid card.
So, Dark Iron Dwarf is awesome, even when he's been nerfed. Because you get a 4 for 4/4, you give a minion +2 attack, which is just gravy. Direwolf Alpha can do some cool stuff, but he's kind of the better version of Raid Leader, in my opinion. Because, you just place him. It's very unlikely you're going to get, the Raid Leader effect on more than 2 minions anyway. So
Yeah.
I'd always take the cheaper mana costs. So I don't know. I go for Dark Iron Dwarf.
All right, another Lights Justice. This War Golem, he seems a little similar to the Boulder Fist Ogre. This is a 7/7/7.
So the 1 mana though is huge. You're not going to live to turn 7 unless you have a really solid defense. I mean, he's boring and fine. The Raging Worgen can be quite good because what happens is if they play something that you can kill without him dying, you win Fury and you can proceed to, take your 4 damage and hit something else or hit the other dude.
And it looks like we need some more 3-drops. So
he's amazing against Paladins too. Like
yeah.
You never want to see this guy.
Well, should we grab him?
Paladin. Yeah.
Oh, epics. Okay.
Nice.
So the obvious choice here.
I'm gonna deal with the spider. 1 sec.
What?
Pause. I got a spider on my monitor here.
Sounds horrifying. All right, how'd that go with that spider over there?
Yeah, I took care of it. Sorry about that. Okay, so Celsi Captain is Garbo. I mean, Pirate deck.
The obvious choice here is Hungry Crab.
Hungry Crab is
I'm kidding.
awesome in a Murloc deck. I mean, he's just.
Is it even awesome in a Murloc deck?
Yeah, dude. Getting a 3/4 for 1 mana is incredible. And many Murlocs spawn other Murlocs.
Interesting.
Lay on Hands is let's just say this. It's not a good card. Don't be confused. The life gain is actually not what you care about. Life gain is actually surprisingly bad, even though it just keeps you alive to lose later, basically.
Right.
Draw 3 cards is what you care about. If you're out of gas, so let me just say this. Lay on Hand should always be the last card you play. It's like you have 1 card in your hand, it's Lay on Hands. Okay, well, I'm trading Lay on Hands for... Basically, the 8 health will let me live an extra turn, so I can actually cast the 3 things. But a 3-for-1 is, strictly speaking, always good. You'll almost never make it to 8 mana and have no cards in hand where you can actually play this. But, if you run out of gas, Lay on Hands is solid. It's not amazing.
And these other 2 cards, one needs a Pirate deck, one needs a Murloc deck, so can't do it.
Yeah, it's the only choice, really, for this 3.
Is it set, by the way? Is it predetermined, the number of epics, legendaries, rares that you'll get?
No, you can definitely draft decks and you don't get any of them.
Wow, that's horrible.
Is
that actually unfair or no?
Well, maybe I'm wrong and maybe you get... I don't know. I've never seen it where you don't get rares, but I have seen it where you don't get legendaries.
Which what we may be seeing right now.
Okay, so this is really bad. This is one of those situations we should talk about where everything is garbage.
But there's no way you can't just say, it's fine, I'll go with a 29-card deck. They don't let you do that.
That would actually be, strictly speaking, better because you're more likely to draw good stuff. So, Alarmabot, it's like, oh, amazing. Like, oh, he's only 3 mana, and like I could trade him for Frost Elemental or something. Yeah, but... the opponent only has to do 3 points of damage to it the next turn, and it's dead, and you wasted a card, and it has 0 attacks. So it's like only good in the most situational. It's like when you have a Ysera who's like 9 mana and a bunch of taunt guys out, and Ysera is the only minion in your hand, and you play Alarmabot. Like just constructing that board state, you'd have to have a whole deck constructed around Alarmabot, and it's just never going to happen for this deck. So,
I think we should go with the Alarmabot.
No, not at all.
So you're saying we've got a chance?
No. Oh, you're joking. You're trolling me. Okay, I thought you were serious. Yeah, I mean, who knows? It could win you the game randomly, and then you'll always remember that game that Alarmabot won you the game. And Murloc, obviously, we've seen a lot of Murlocs this time, but we
don't have any in our deck.
Them, so Blessed Champion, fine.
I don't know.
Not good.
I'm tempted to go with the Alarmabot just because we might have that, win the Super Bowl, Hail Mary pass type moment. It could be pretty exciting.
I guess, but Blessed Champion's always going to do something. It's not going to do something great, but it's going to do something. Whereas, you
have no heart. You're all mind.
Blessed Champion,
you're
your Boulder Fist Ogre. Okay, hit you for 12.
Look what you made me do. I'm giving up on my dreams. Okay,
so
we've got a true silver champion.
I mean, Raging Worgen is always amazing, but the nice thing about True Silver Champion is it just eats early game attacks. Like,
and we don't have a lot of healing, and we don't have a lot of weapons, so I think this is a good card to
and
round out our deck a little.
I mean, 4 attack, you just can't mess with that. That's a lot. Like, it's gonna 2-for-1 nearly every time.
So another Light's Justice. This Bloodfen Raptor is actually not a horrible card, too. For
It's boring. It dies to everything. I'm not unhappy to have it, but like,
how about this Hammer of Wrath then? Deal
Hammer
3
of Wrath's
damage and draw
nice.
a card.
It's almost always a 2-for-1. It's like kill your thing, draw a card. Boring. 3 damage for 4 mana is not good. Like, just for context, Fireball I believe does 6 damage for the mage for 4 mana. But you don't draw the card. But I'll take Hammer of Wrath. It's never bad.
It's good for Paladins too.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So we've got summon a 2/2 Squire, 4/4 and a 2/2 for 5 mana. Hand of Protection gives a minion Divine Shield. That's useful since we have a lot of Divine Shield here in the deck. And
But
then,
you don't want to waste a whole card on Divine Shield, even if it's really good. I mean, sometimes that can be okay, but I'd almost always rather have the 6 points of power and toughness on the board for 5.
Yeah, this is a good card, right?
Silverhand Knight, really good.
So Wisdom we've seen, the Raging Worgen we kind of liked. Charge when you have a weapon.
Morgan is the MVP of this 3.
Yeah, we don't have enough weapons to really consider that. So we've got 5 cards left here in the draft. We should stop and take a look at this deck, and just tell me what type of deck we've built here. As we look.
Yeah. So it's interesting because all the early game plays really depend on having stuff out already. So there's going to be some awkward situations where you have all this stuff in your hand, but really the technically correct choice is to just use your hero power and summon a 1/1, right? So yeah, I mean, our early game is just about getting the late game. Don't expect dominance in the early game. As soon as we hit 4 mana, we're in business. Then we just start laying down good stuff, and our end game is we 2-for-1 them with our better high mana stuff, because chances are they're playing a lower mana curve than we are. We've got better stuff, and eventually we just overpower them. Keep in mind, if you're playing a defensive deck, sometimes it is correct to wipe their board, because if you've taken a lot of early hits, as our deck probably will, you just kind of need to stabilize by the time you solidify the board. So,
and are we missing anything here with these last 5 cards that we draft? Is there something that's like,
we want to stabilize our early game probably. I don't know. I would incline to pick early game stuff.
But here we're presented with a Guardian of Kings.
He's a trap. I mean, 7 for 5/6 is really bad. 6 health, sure. But if you get to 7 mana,
he's changed some games around for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm not saying he doesn't, but if you get to 7 mana and you haven't lost, you're probably going to win.
Right.
As this deck. Humility is surprisingly good, even if it doesn't kill the minion. You play that on a Boulder Fist Ogre, and suddenly they have a 1/7 that you don't have to worry about. Like, you just literally ignore it for the rest of the game.
I think that's the choice here, right?
It is, definitely. Keep in mind, you want to be using Humility on their bomb,
So, Consecration, we don't actually have anything that deals damage to all enemies, so that's an interesting...
Consecration is good when you're expecting a swarm straction.
Do you see that often in the arena? Do you see swarm
No,
strategies?
I don't see a storm. I mean, if your opponent has a ton of guys out, you're in trouble. Especially as this Paladin deck where you're just trying to survive to the end game. Senjin Shieldmaster, or Tazdingo as everyone affectionately calls him, he seems like really underwhelming. He is amazing. He will almost always let you live an extra 2 turns, not take any damage, and kill 2 of their guys if you play him on turn 4. I love Senjin Shieldmaster.
But maybe it's not the right card for this deck. I mean, this 1 mana for a 2/1 with stealth, that's a pretty good early game card if we have early game weakness.
We have early game weakness, so I think we are really overburdened in the latter half. So you might be right, although Senjin Shieldmaster is amazing.
He's so good that it's worth, we're going to risk it.
I think you're right, though. We should probably go with the Infiltrator. We have such early game weakness. Like,
All right.
I can imagine a play where you're infiltrating, and then you Divine Shield him, and you kill one of their guys, and then you kill another one of their guys, and then, you've survived to get to turn 4, 5, 6.
This Crazed Alchemist, it's 2 mana for a 2/2, so it's not a horrible card right out of the gate, and swapping attack and health can be useful.
Yeah, it's situational, yeah, I don't know. I think he's really underwhelming, 2 mana of T2.
I don't like this 3 for a 4/2 just
that
because it gives your
is,
opponent a
you
mana
better
crystal.
not be playing that until turn 10, or close to turn 10. Because giving an opponent a mana crystal in the early stages of the game, you will lose.
It has ripple effects for the whole rest of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of a trap. You need to play this late. Stampeding Kodo, it's really underwhelming because there's not a lot of minions that people play that have 2 or less attack.
I think we're going with the Crazed Alchemist here. Since
yeah,
they're
it's
weak.
not good. There's some edge cases where you can get some trickiness, but most people play them wrong.
Well, maybe we could be one of those people who plays them wrong. So we've got a spell damage card. Freeze a character. We like that guy. He is pretty
Oh man, this is really bad. Eye for an Eye is garbage, by the way.
What does that do? Okay.
Like, they're going to hit you with their 1/1 first, if they're smart. And so you have spent 1 mana to deal 1 damage to the opposing hero, and you've also spent a card. I mean, it's good if they hit you for 12 or whatever, but, you really need to... if you're playing Eye for an Eye, first off, I'm sorry. Second off, you should be playing it extremely late in the game.
Right.
Also, if it said prevent that damage, there could be something, but it's just underpowered as it is.
So we're going with another Frost Elemental, huh?
I hate to say it, I'm glad we picked that Worgen Infiltrator earlier.
All right. Questing Adventurer. So this is a card that a lot of new players to Hearthstone love to play, and I've actually played it, with some success. But what do you think about this card?
Anyone who is smart will never
who is smart. I like that. That's
will
good.
never let you get turn 2 with a Questing Adventurer, because suddenly you're going to be playing a card every turn. So if you can. So Questing Adventurer, I've seen him. Oh, it's a 2/2. Let's not worry about it. Okay, now it's a 3/3. Now it's a 4/4. Now it's a 5/5.
Yeah.
So if your opponent can't deal with it, it's great. If your opponent is smart and can deal with it,
But we're talking about just needing to stay alive in the early game, and this would cause them to, be distracted in the early game to deal with it.
Yeah. I think it's better than Equality.
And what does
Equality
change
is
the
good
health?
for basically you trade all of your 1/1s for their guys because everyone suddenly has 1 health.
Yeah, we're going with the Questing Adventurer then.
Yep.
And I think, we should take this out for 1 spin.
Yeah,
and
I think
see
it's
how it
always
goes.
good to take it out for 1 spin, and then we will report back on the next podcast on how this deck did in the arena, like the overall record.
What do you think about this mana curve? Does this look good?
Yeah, for Paladin, this is right, because keep in mind the hero power can always smooth out bad draws. I mean, they've learned a lot from Magic. It's very seldom that you get screwed and you have totally nothing to do on a turn.
Yep. Are you feeling good about it? How many wins do you think this deck is going to have?
This would probably be a 5-win deck, I would imagine. Probably 6 if we can do well. It's not like the most amazing deck I've ever seen, but we will get our entry fee back if we play confidently.
Okay.
And that's okay. I mean, sometimes you just get a nuts deck, and you basically are playing the equivalent of a constructed deck, and you just roll through the arena. I had a Druid deck that went 9-3
Wow.
most recently. That's my best record.
That's awesome.
It
Wouldn't that
was
be
a very
9-2? Because
aggressive Druid.
9 is the most that you could get.
No, you can actually go past 9 now, which pissed me off. I thought I did the best.
Uther
I didn't.
versus Thrall.
All right.
Doomhammer. I will fight with honor.
All right. So I think it's apparent right off the bat that we probably want to toss back Blessing Wisdom and probably Silvermoon Guardian too, in my opinion.
Yep. Let's hope that we get an early draw.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can hope for. True Silver Champion's just so good. Oh boy, we're screwed.
All right, so we've got the coin. The coin, we are usually going to want to hold on to that for a little while, right? Oh, we don't even have the coin. If you get the coin on your first draw, though, do you recommend playing it in the early game, mid game, or late game?
Early as can.
Really?
Like turn 2, coin, Raging Organ.
What about turn 1?
Turn 1, not
Totemic Call?
Okay, no need to worry about that. So we summon our minion, and then we get our Raging Organ, and then we do our Dragonling dude. So that's not terrible. Most people think that you should be using the hero power every turn. Some people, some new players, oh, that thing. That is the worst thing against the Paladin deck.
Uh-oh.
Fortunately, they wasted a turn playing it.
Alright, what
so
are we
now
doing?
You want your Raging Organ out.
Are you sure it's just gonna... Oh, it won't die,
Oh, that's
right.
awesome if they hit you with a Storm Force. That's the best possible thing.
Alright, well, let's hope they fall for it.
They probably won't. They'll probably use a Lightning Bolt if they're smart.
Now, to your knowledge, is there any sort of a matchmaker here in the arena, or it's just random?
Oh, they're definitely matchmaking. They're matchmaking you based on your record. Okay,
Oh,
so
really?
they Iron Beaked you. Sorry about that.
That's alright. Still, the 3 damage is not bad.
So remember, in my opinion, the correct thing is to destroy their Iron Beak, because we're just trying to survive.
So we've got a 4. Do we bring out the Divine Shield?
My opinion, we bring out the Dragonling thing, because then we can at least get some tertiary damage in our turns.
Me and Mr. Fight.
And we go ahead and kill this 2-1.
Precisely.
So knowing your deck is really important, because with some decks you would have gone straight for the damage there.
Some decks we would. Aggressive decks. I mean, basically, you're either aggressive or you're not.
Lucky.
So now you're gonna True Silver Champion. I mean, you got to, and then take the totem out. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And I would Blessing of Wisdom. I would Blessing of Wisdom your guy and cycle.
This doesn't change your opinion at all? Probably doesn't.
No, definitely not. We're trying to survive. Remember?
True Silver, Blessing of Wisdom, our Dragonling.
Yeah, and then hit the totem with the Dragonling. And then hit the...
Wait, hang on, I gotta kill this guy first because a minion would die. The order is very important because if this totem had died, then that guy would have been stronger.
Oh, you're right. See, you're better at this game than I am.
Alright.
So, you're probably gonna get 2 cards out of Blessing of Wisdom, so it wasn't, it was good for you. I mean, 1 mana for 2 cards, I'll take it.
So we've got our Silvermoon Guardians, we've got this charge guy.
So, I would definitely consider silencing him.
This guy?
Yeah, and then hitting it with your dude, and then maybe bring out a... Yeah, and then bring out, one of the Silvermoon Guardians.
Shall not fall.
So we're saving this, right? We're just...
Oh yeah, I should definitely save the True Silver. I mean, you've just got such a dominant board state on him now. That, you know, next turn a Boulder Fist is going to come down.
Play with fire.
Ah. That's actually a pretty good use of that card, actually.
For sure.
Alright, well, this is going to be a trade situation, right?
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I would probably hit the totem. No, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, you can.
We could silence him.
No, that's. I think you hit one of them with the True Silver. You hit the other with your dude.
So we care about the totem and the Pyromancer.
No, I would say forget the totem for now.
Okay.
And then maybe play the Reckless Rocketeer or the Boulder. Probably play the Boulder Fist.
job's done.
All right. So we have a definite card advantage here, and we've got a strong guy on the board.
Yeah,
I've got a good feeling about this.
We're outlasting him. He's run out of gas. That's what we wanted. I mean, you've only taken 6 damage.
Yeah.
Alright, so Tazdingo's not scary in this situation at all. You just run your Boulder Fist into Tazdingo, and then Reckless Rocketeer and hit him.
You think that's the right call? Reckless and then bring out a
How
2
about-
cast dude?
Yeah, sure. And then bring out a dude. And just straight to the face.
Reporting for duty.
All right. If I'm Thrall, I'm
maybe
starting to get a little worried here.
He has a, Fork Lightning or something.
He's used like 2 of them. I know in the
Yeah,
arena you
I'm
can
thinking
have
he's
an
running
unlimited
out
number.
of spells.
Squire,
in my-
attend me.
Ah,
Ready,
we've got
sir.
that same card.
Well, so now you don't need to worry about it. You're in offense mode. I mean, I would consider taking out the 2/2. Well, I would definitely take out the.
Flame
Never
tongue.
mind. Yeah, definitely take out the Flame Tongue.
Or silence it.
Yeah, silence the Flame Tongue. That's smart. And then I would just keep attacking past. Like freeze now. I mean, maybe you have 7. Yeah, maybe your Silverhand Guardian and
and then another
pump
dude.
out a dude,
Squire, attend me.
Ready, sir.
and then just keep attacking.
Reporting for duty.
I mean, you have such a dominant
To
advantage.
battle.
All right, do your worst, Thrall.
And then you can freeze whatever he brings out.
That wasn't bad. I guess it would have been better if he'd hit one of the 1/1s, but still, he didn't hit the 6 or the 4. I could actually silence him. Never mind. Double the attack of this guy? Or
No,
freeze?
definitely not. We want to be pumping out minions. So I would freeze his
Freeze this
4/4. You know, get your Silver Moon Guardian out and just keep swinging.
Silver.
Maybe
Just-
maybe run the 1/1 into the 2/2. I don't know.
To battle. Battle.
I mean, he's totally out of gas. Next turn, you're going to hit him for 10 with that that blessing if he doesn't kill your guy.
Lucky draw.
Very lucky draw. I didn't even know Lava Burst existed. I've never seen that card.
Alright, let's see it. Should I put out a taunt?
Yeah, and then maybe the blessing on your 4/4.
And then we bring out this guy, or we get ourselves more health and an attacker?
Bring that guy out. That
Young
could be
Priestess?
useful. Yeah,
Blessing?
and then just keep attacking. I mean, all you're going to have to do is 1 damage next turn.
Alright, good luck.
Squire, attend me.
Ready,
Do you
sir.
ever see those
who
jerks? You ever see those jerks who do well played before the game's over? I hate those people.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't be...
Well
All right,
You win. Well played.
All right, not bad. So I think one important thing to note in that match is we made a definite decision to start going offensive.
Yeah.
Midway through, and that is important. You know, I'm not saying when you play a Paladin deck that you should always be trying to wipe their board out. You need to assess the cost of getting hit versus the amount of damage you could do to them. And, you know, you had a bunch of high power stuff that you knew he had to attack into because you would have, if you were racing, you would win. So that was the right time to do the flip. So I think, you know, that's the trick with this deck is you hit the mid game, you know, around 5-6 mana, and then now you're in offensive mode. And they are playing lower casting cost stuff that is not as effective as your higher casting cost stuff, and you attrition them out.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I think this was a successful first episode for Into the Arena.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Obviously we're not pro Hearthstone players, but we've both got pretty good records, and we're going to get better every time we do this.
And next time when we start off the episode, I'll let you know how far this deck went.
Yeah, I don't know if you can handle this great responsibility of piloting this deck, but I think you can do it.
Hopefully next time we'll make you play.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to do that. We'll share the burden of playing Hearthstone.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks, Dan.
Cool. Great talking with you. See you next time.
See ya.